Hi everyone, welcome to class PM. Myself Mr. Bilal, and in this video we are going to talk about the heredity and the evolution. Guys, you know what is heredity and what is evolution. There's a difference between heredity and evolution. But before discussing about heredity or evolution, I have to give a brief overview about sexual reproduction. What is sexual reproduction? How variations exist? How variations occur among the individuals. As you know that the reproduction is a production of new organisms from the parent one, and this reproduction can occur by two ways. One is by the asexual mode of reproduction, in which only one parent is involved, and there is no meiosis at all, and there is no fusion of the gametes or the formation of the gametes. So in the asexual case, the variations are very less compared to sexual reproduction. In case of sexual reproduction, the two parents are involved, and the gametes are involved, the fusion of the gametes are involved, and most importantly, the meiosis is involved. In case of meiosis, and the recombination and crossing over occurs, so the variations exist. So we can say that variations are more in sexual reproduction compared to asexual reproduction. What is heredity then? We have to discuss, define it here. The heredity is the transfer of characters. Transfer of characters, or transfer of features, or transfer of some traits from parent to the offspring during the sexual reproduction especially. So these are some characters which are being inherited by an offspring from his or her parents. So what are those characters? What is the source of the characters? How those characters are being transferred? What are the ways by which those characters or those traits are being transferred from one generation to another generation, or from parents to the offspring? You may have analyzed that when we compare an offspring with his or her parent, you may see that most of the cases there is a similarity between the offspring and the parent. So I will discuss it. I will explain it with the help of this diagram. This diagram will give a clear picture about what is heredity and what is the evolution as well. These two terms are being explained with the help of this diagram. You see here how this diagram is. Suppose this is the parent one. Suppose this is the parent, and this parent reproduces. This may reproduce. This reproduces sexually to form the offsprings, and you may see that 99% there is the similarity between the parent and the offspring. There is a similarity. The offsprings are similar to their parents. You can see here these offsprings are clearly similar to these parents, but they are not identical to their parents. They are not completely similar to their parents. There are variations which exist among these offsprings. These may be similar. These are similar, no doubt. There is similarity between the parents and the offsprings, but there is no 100% similarity. They are not identical to their parents. You can see here, I have explained it with the help of diagram. You see this is different from this. This color is different from this. Similarly, you may see this color is different from this color. So it indicates that there is a difference. There is variation. There is a variation which exists among the organisms. They are a bit dissimilar. They are a bit dissimilar from the parents. And there is variation as well as there is similarity. It means that these characters, these features of the parent, these are being inherited by these offsprings. It means there is a transfer of these characters, the similarity with characters. There is a transfer of those features from this parent to the offspring. This transfer of character, this transfer of the trait, this transfer of features from parent to the individual is called the heredity. This is the heredity. And you may see here this when this offspring grows and when this starts reproduction, they may form their offsprings, and their offsprings may also be similar to their parents, but there may be variations as well among these offsprings compared to their parents. So this process goes on. There is a heredity, there is the inheritance of the characters, inheritance of the features, inheritance of some traits, but there is some dissimilarity as well, there is variations as well. The inheritance, the transfer of these characters from parents to their offsprings is called the heredity. And you may see how you explain the evolution from this diagram. What is evolution first? See that the evolution is the formation of the new organisms from the old one. Formation of new organisms from the old one, but by the gradual change. It means that the changes occur during the course of the life. During the course of the life, you may have heard somewhere that humans do have their ancestors, and all the animals have their ancestors. Ancestors look completely different from the current animal, because during the course of the time the variations occur. And if you see, I may explain it here. See, this parent is reproduced while these are their offsprings, and these offsprings attain maturity, they will reproduce and they will give offsprings. There would be the variation in these offsprings, and similarly this progeny goes on, this goes on, this goes on. And if you see, after thousands, after millions of years, you will see the offspring of the parent offspring of this very generation would be completely different from this very parent. Please understand it. See here, these parents have reproduced and formed their offsprings, and these offsprings are similar to their parents. This transfer of the characters, transfer of features from parent to the offspring, it is called the heredity. But you may have noticed here, there are some variations as well during the course of the sexual reproduction. There exists some variations as well. It means that this organism may look a bit dissimilar from their parent, a bit different from their parent as far as characters, as far as features are concerned. And similarly, you may see this offspring, when after attaining maturity, this may reproduce and this will give their offspring. These offsprings may look a bit different from this parent or this parent, and they may reproduce further and they may give offsprings. These offsprings may vary from their parents, and these offsprings may also vary great grandfather. This would be their parents, this would be their grandfather, this would be their great grandfather. You will see, if you will compare between a great grandfather and this offspring, you may see there are variations. There are variations which exist. And if you see, after when this generation continues, after millions of the years, you will see the offspring after million years. You will see that that offspring would be completely different from this parent. And this gradual change, this is a gradual change. It's slow. This evolution is very slow. It's not a rapid process. This evolution is very slow process. It is a gradual process. And you may see, after millions of the years, this offspring may look completely different from this very parent. This formation of new offspring from the parent, this formation of new offspring, from the old one during the course of the life, over the period of the time, this is called, by gradual change, this process is called actually the evolution. So next important point is why it is necessary for variations to occur. Why there is variations? It means that what is the significance of the sexual reproduction, which is very important to understand. Why sexual reproduction, even though sexual reproduction needs very much energy. It is huge amount of energy is wasted upon the sexual reproduction. You may see that spermatogenesis, oogenesis, energy is involved here, fertilization, energy is involved everywhere. So in case of sexual reproduction, huge amount of energy is being wasted. But still, why sexual reproduction is most preferred, why it is very stable in the environment, why it exists, why it is very stable compared to sexual reproduction, which does not need any kind of the energy. Sexual reproduction is very simple process, and parent divide us into two. There is no energy needed mostly, and but asexual reproduction is not favored in the environment by any organism. Mostly they prefer sexual reproduction. What is the significance of that sexual reproduction? We will discuss in the next session. So we will see here the sexual reproduction is very necessary for variations to occur, and variations are very necessary for the survival of the life. Variations are very important for the survival. If variations are not, survival will become very difficult. I will explain it with the help of an example. You see here, please. I will give you an example about how this variations are important. Why variations are important? See, this is the bacterial culture in which bacteria are living. Simply, if we see when the bacteria have originated, actually bacteria have originated. Bacteria is a single cell. It is a prokaryote. Prokaryotes have evolved 3.5 billion years ago. Please understand it from the evolution perspective. Please understand this. Bacteria are evolved. Bacteria have been evolved since 3.5 billion years ago, and 3.5 billion years up to now they are continuously evolving. And today you will also see the bacteria are there in the external environment or any environment. Bacteria do exist everywhere. How these bacteria have been survived since so long, since 3.5 billion years ago, let's discuss about it in complete way. Bacteria in the 3.5 billion years ago would have been very simple, because the environmental condition of that very time would have been different compared to current environment. Suppose if I'm giving example with respect to the temperature. At that time, that environmental temperature would have been something different, and today temperature is extremely different. You can see in the tropical conditions the temperature may vary over 52 degree, and you may see in the polar regions the temperature may go up to -7, -8, or -10, -20 degree. You can see the bacteria are always living also living in that polar region. You can observe the bacteria in the tropical region as well. It is due to the course of the evolution. During the course of the time from 3.1 billion years ago, the bacteria have evolved itself according to the prevailing condition, according to the prevailing environment. Due to variations, these are simply due to the variations. Bacteria have developed some different properties in order to sustain in that very environment. And this was very important. If variations does not occur in that bacteria, today's environment would have been devoid of the bacteria. There would have been no bacteria at all. But bacteria have evolved according to the prevailing conditions. They have developed some variations in their body in order to sustain according to the prevailing environment. If variations would have not been there, then the current environment would have been devoid of the bacteria. You may not found any bacteria anywhere. But this is due to variation that bacteria are there in the environment. Suppose this is a bacterial culture. If you in the initial stage, if you give them temperature shock of 90 degree temperature shock, 70 degree temperature shock, 70 degree, you may see if bacteria would have been simple, it would have not been developed these variations. There would have been two conditions: either all of these bacteria would die due to this temperature shock, or all bacteria may survive. Simple. But in the reality is different, that some bacteria will survive here and some bacteria may die. Those bacteria which can tolerate this temperature shock, they can survive. But those bacteria which cannot tolerate this temperature shock, they may die, they may go extinct. Simple is the case here in the environment, due to the changing environment, because environment is not static, environment is dynamic. Dynamic means environment tends to change. It changes. It changes due to the anthropogenic activities. It may change due to natural calamities. It may change due to any fluctuations. There are fluctuations in the environment, and all bacteria have to adapt themselves according to the prevailing environmental condition in order to sustain in that very environment. They have to bring some changes. They have to adopt some variations. So variations are very important for the survival, in order to sustain in that very temperature. Simple, if we talk of those organisms which reproduce asexually, simply Asexual mode of reproduction has very less variations because there is no meiosis at all, and there is no genetic recombination, or there is no crossing over. Those organisms which divide asexually, suppose they divide at that constant temperature and constant moisture, and environmental conditions were constant, and they divide at 30 degree. But temperature may change, environmental conditions may change over the period of time. They may temperature may go up to 40 or 50, and in that case, these organisms which reproduce asexually, they cannot maintain in that very environment. They cannot maintain themselves in that very temperature, and they cannot reproduce in that very environmental conditions. So they may slowly over the period of time, they may extend, they may go extinct from the this environment. They may vanish from the environment because they cannot survive to this very temperature, because they have not got variations. They have not variations. They are simply accumulation of variation over the period of time gives an organism better chance for the survival. Very best statement. Accumulation of variation over the period of time gives an organism the best chance for the survival. So these lines are being taken, from actually the Darwin. We will go in the next session. We will discuss about Darwin's theory that accumulation of the variation are very, very important for the survival in the current temperature, because in the current environment, because environment tends to change over the period of the time. So this is very, very important that variations must occur there, variations must be there, and in case of sexual reproductions, variations do occur with the help of the meiosis. There is crossing over, there is meiosis, due to which variations do occur, due to which there is different combinations in the offspring, and yes, according to prevailing environmental condition. So simply you have to understand that these variations are very, very necessary for the survival according to the prevailing environmental condition. So the next part is what is the source of the variation actually, and next question is how these traits, how these characters are transferred from parents to the offspring. First question, we will deal about how these characters are transferred from parents to offspring, and second, we will discuss about what is the source of this variation. Traits are being transferred from parents to the offspring with the help of by way of genes. What are genes? You need to explain. You need to know firstly. Suppose this is a cell. What is the composition of the cell? Cell has a plasma membrane, which acts as a selectively permeable membrane. It means that it may allow some select molecules to cross, or it may restrict other molecules to cross through the membrane into the cell. Simply, apart from plasma membrane, the very, very important constituent of the cell is it is cytoplasm, it is organelles, and that organelle which we have to deal with, that is, it contains a nucleus. It's a very, very important part of the cell is the nucleus. Very, very important part of the cell is the nucleus. So within this nucleus of cell is present chromosomes. Within this cell is present a nucleus, and within that nucleus is present chromosomes. What is chromosome? Chromosome is actually a highly condensed form of DNA. It's a thread-like structure made up of DNA. This chromosome actually a highly condensed form of the DNA. That DNA, highly condensed form of DNA, and that DNA consists of genes. It means that suppose if this is DNA, this is DNA. This is a DNA, and when it is highly condensed form of DNA is called a chromosome. And suppose this part of the DNA which codes for a protein, brings about some character, about some phenotypic character. This coding part of this DNA which codes for a particular protein is called a gene. So gene is also called the unit of the inheritance, a unit of heredity, because by way of these genes, the traits, the features, the characters are passed from one generation to another generation, or from the parent to the offspring. Simply, these are the genes are unit of the inheritance, with the help of which the characters are being transferred from parents to the offspring. So, what are these genes? Genes are the part of the DNA, a segment of the DNA, simply the segment of the DNA, a segment of a genetic material which codes for a protein, and that protein is responsible for any phenotypic character, for any trait, for any character. So these genes are actually responsible for the transfer of the characters from parents to the offspring. There are lakhs of the genes, but out of those, only 30 to 35,000 genes are those genes which are coding gene. Coding means which codes for a particular character, which codes for a particular protein with the help of which a particular character may come. So I can explain it here. This protein, suppose this is the gene, this is the segment of the DNA, the gene which is the coding one, the coding part of the gene DNA is called the gene. They may code for a protein, and this protein, and with the help of this protein is responsible for the tall character of a male or a female. A person may become tall with the help of these genes. So these genes carry particular characters, and these genes are being transferred from parents to the offspring. Each and every character in a person, each and every character is being determined by a particular gene. Suppose the dark hair or blonde hair, white hair or blonde hair, though the color of hair is also, it depends upon the gene. It is correct. It is coded by a gene. So there are for each and every character in human body or in any organism, there are particular genes which code for that very character. Suppose tallness. Somebody is tall. For this tallness, the genes are present. Dwarf, this person is dwarf. For this dwarfness, the gene is present. For a red eye, the gene is correct. Gene is there. For brown eye or for black eye color, the gene is there. That gene may contain a code for a particular protein, and with the help of that protein, that character may occur in that particular organism. So these characters or features are transferred from parents to the offspring by way of the genes, with the help of genes. What is the gene? Gene is the coding part of DNA, the coding segment of the DNA. What is DNA? DNA is the genetic material present in the nucleus. And what is chromosome? Chromosome, when the DNA is condensed in the highly condensed form of DNA, is called the chromosome. So this is the difference between the DNA, chromosome, and gene. And what are those ways by which the characters are being transferred from parents to the offspring? See, with the help of some example, I can explain it here. Suppose the genes, actually, first I must mention here, the genes always work in pairs. It means that there is a pair of the gene for a particular character. See here first, if the gene is T and the next gene is T, this small t, this T is responsible for tall character, and this T is responsible for dwarf character. It means that in those organisms in whose genome the capital T is present, it is for the tall character, and in the other organisms the small t is present, it is for the dwarf character. So it is not in the single. I have already mentioned that it would be like this now. Capital T, as I said that genes work in pairs. Capital T, small t. Now if we cross them, that is capital T, small t, capital T, small t. So this is the equation now. See here, this is for tall character, and this is for dwarf character. It means that if the gene pair is capital T, the person would be tall. If the gene is small t, the person would be dwarf. Now, if we see this one would be obviously tall, and if we see this one would be dwarf. लेकिन the question is about this and this, because you see here this is capital T and small t, and remember capital T is responsible for tallness and small t is responsible for dwarfness. Similarly here small t capital T, it means that small t is responsible for dwarfness and capital T is responsible for tallness. What would be the phenotypic expression of this very gene character and this very gene? What would be the character of this gene or this gene? Before we explain these, what would be the outcome if the gene combination is small t capital T or capital T small t, you need to know the meaning of dominance and recessive character. What is dominance and what is recessive? What is dominant character? The dominant gene is that gene which has ability to express itself when other genes are also available, present. Even though when the other genes are present, but this very gene has ability to express itself. You know how? See here, this is capital T, small t. This is the character for tallness, character for darkness. It means that what would be the phenotypic character of this very gene? The phenotypic character of this very gene would be tall, because this acts as a dominant gene. Dominant means when it is present in a combination. Please remember it. When this tallness, when the capital T is present in any combination, it would express itself in that very condition. It means that it cancels the character of this small t. It cancels, it suppresses, it inhibits the characters of this recessive type, and it expresses itself. And this expression, the way this gene is expressed, and when it cancels the other gene present there, this is called the dominant character or the dominant gene. Similarly, recessive. So, a recessive gene is that gene which is expressed only when the identical gene of that is present. Please understand again, recessive gene is that gene in which can be expressed only when an identical gene in that pair is present. Simply like this. This and this, small t and small t. This is recessive, this is recessive. If this would have been small t, capital T, it would not have been expressed. This cannot be expressed. In that case, this would be expressed, because this dominant one cancels the character of the recessive one, and it will express itself. But in this case, the recessive gene is that gene which can be expressed only when an identical gene in that pair is present. So these are the identical, in this case, expressed. These are called the recessive genes. Classical genetics, this term is called as homozygous condition. That recessive gene is only expressed in homozygous condition. Homozygous means when an identical gene is present, when the identical genes are present. When identical genes are present, in that case, the recessive gene is expressed. But in the dominant gene, it means that there are two different genes, a pair in which two different genes are involved. These are the pair of genes. This is a pair of genes, but two different genes are involved. It means that in heterozygous condition, this is heterozygous. Hetero means different. In heterozygous condition, this character of tall, this gene which is responsible for the tall character, is expressed in that very pair, and the character of tallness will suppress the character of the dwarf, or this recessive, and hence it expresses itself. This is the dominant character. This is the dominant gene. So you understand dominant. Dominant means which expresses itself, and recessive means which inhibits itself, which suppresses itself. So recessive gene can only be expressed when they are in homozygous condition. It means when both the genes are identical. And the dominant gene can be expressed in the heterozygous condition. In the heterozygous condition, even though when if the second gene in that very pair is different, is unidentical, still that dominant gene can be expressed. This way of the expression is called the dominance. Remember, this concept can be applied when you read the first law of Mendeleev's first law, also called the law of the dominance. It means that in the dominance law, whenever they are in the heterozygous condition, the character of the tallness always cancel the character of the darkness, and the character of tallness expressed always. Genes, which is responsible for characters. Genes are responsible for characters, and genes work in pairs. I have already expanded that genes work in pairs, and gene pair may be homozygous, gene pair may be heterozygous. As I have explained here, that it may be capital T, it may be like capital T, it may be capital T, small t, it may be small t, it may be small t, capital T. And this is a homozygous condition, dwarf, and this is the tall, and this would be tall obviously, and this would be tall obviously. So now there would be an this is the question for you, like question may arise like here. So there's a question for you guys, you can easily do it. See, in an organism the genotype is like TT, and in the second one the genotype is capital T, small t, and in the third organism the genotype is small t, capital T, and in the next individual the genotype is small t, small t. So determine which one would be tall and which one would be dwarf. Simply, you know that this is a capital, this is the capital T. It means that these have the dominant nature, the person would be tall. And if you see capital T, small t, you know that one T is capital, one T is small, one T is for tallness, and so this second small t is for darkness. But you also know that according to the law of dominance, that the character of tallness cancels the character of the darkness. Hence, the tallness is expressed and darkness is suppressed. So here in this case, the person would be always tall. Similarly, here in this case, the pair is small t, capital T. You know that the capital T cancels the character of the small t. The dominant gene cancels the character of the small gene, and in this way, this person would also be tall. And in the last case, you will see that this is the homozygous condition in which both the T's are small t's. It means that these small t's would be expressed, and if they would be expressed, the person would be dwarf. So this is the ratio according to the law of dominance, 3:1. It means 3 are tall and 1 is the dwarf. This is simple case. This is how you can calculate inheritance pattern. Second example, if I give you, is that suppose a person having hair color, and hair color is black, and we will write it in here H, and we will write here the second person whose black color is blonde color, so we will write here H. So this H is responsible for black hair, and this H is responsible for blonde hair, blondie hair, or white hair. So it means that, as I explained earlier, that genes work in pairs. So H would be black, and next capital H, small h, then small h, capital H, small h, small h. You know this would be blonde, this would be black, and this would be black hair. This is the simple case. So here what I want to make you guys to understand is, suppose I have a person who has HH genotype. It means it has a black hair. It's a male having black hair. Second one is a female, and it has a small h, small h. Simple. And suppose they reproduce by sexual production. When they reproduce, see here, we can see in the gametes, their gamete may fuse. Their gamete, the fusion of the gametes is called this fertilization. In their gametes, since the gametes are haploid, so in the gamete of this very person, it would be H, and in this very person, it would be H. So in the male gamete, the genotype would be H because it is haploid, only one gene is present, and this is the female in whose genotypic content is small h, it is blonde, and this is black hair and blonde hair. So when these gametes may fuse, they will form zygote. Simply, it's a sexual reproduction. When the gametes fuse, the fusion of gametes is called the zygote. What would be the combination of this zygote? As far as the hair color is concerned, the combination would be like capital H, small h. And if this is capital H and small h, what would be the hair color of an offspring? What would be the hair color of this offspring? As you know that this is dominant and this is recessive, this will cancel the character of this one. It means that the character of black hair cancels the character of blonde hair, and in this way the offspring's hair color would be black. This is how the inheritance pattern occur. So in the next case we can explain it there. Now we will discuss about the person genotypic content is like this, capital H, small h. It would be black hair, and next would be, you know, H, it will be blonde hair. These are the fundamental characters of the genetics. Please understand this. If you are able to understand these fundamental things, things would be easy for you guys. This is capital H, small h. It means the person is having black hair. And this is the small h. It means person is having blonde hair. Blonde hair means white hair or blonde type, blonde color, golden color. So see, when the gamete formation occurs here, in the gamete of this very person would be H, simple one H. And but here would be the content, the genetic makeup of those gametes would be different. It would be either H or H. This is the chance. It would be small h or it would be capital H. We will explain both. In the first case, we will consider that the gamete is having small h. So in that case, the zygote formation occurs by the fusion of this gamete, and this will result in the H and H. And in this very offspring, the hair color will be blonde hair. Simple. We have taken a person whose genetic makeup is capital H, small h. It means its hair color is black. As I already explained that this is black, and this would be black because the character of tallness, because character of dominant gene will cancel the character of the recessive, and hence it would express itself. So black, this would be black, and this will be blonde. So firstly, I have seen that a black color person with black color, male having with black color, cross is being crossed with that person having blonde color hair. So we have seen the offspring, the zygote formation, and the zygote having content capital H and small h. It means that the offspring's hair color would be black. In the second case, we have seen the capital H, small h, that person having black hair again, and with the female having blonde hair color, small h. And we have seen in the first case, here two cases may arise because this is in heterozygous condition. We will take first case, that is if the gamete contains the small h, and then small h, this would be the blonde hair. In the second case may also arise. See here, the capital H, this one capital H, and this one capital H, this one small h. They may fuse. This is the black, this is the blonde. They may fuse to form zygote, and this zygote gives you capital H, small h. Again, you know that here one is capital H, one is small h, and you know whenever there is the dominant gene present, it will express in that very condition. So capital H is dominant, and here the offspring's hair color would be black. So this is how the things go as far as the genetics is concerned, and this is how dominance law of Mendel has been explained in a very simplest way. So what is genotype, what is phenotype, I have just explained. In the next video, I will try to explain more about this part. Apart from this, we will most importantly discuss about the next phase of this unit, that is the evolution. And for now, thank you very much.